one of the most trying times that can affect a person's life is any number of trials. And one of the reasons I love Christmas so much is the fact that it's at the precise time of year that allows you to reflect on what really is important to you. For instance, I am going into my third Christmas without my father, and my third Christmas without my father, and my first Christmas without my grandmother. Now, loss affects you in a lot of ways. You get into like an annual what's the word I'm looking for? Every year, you almost kind of go through the same. My family, at least, went through very similar motions of how we would handle our holidays together, and we would spend Christmas Eve with my mom's family, Christmas Day with my dad's. That changed after the divorce. But what I'm getting at is not to be too dramatic, but I can never help that. Is to always hold the holidays and good tidings seasons close to your hearts, because you truly never know which of those traditions you hold dear may be your last. I don't say this to come off on a sour note to all of you tonight. I say this because Christmas to me means knowing that you are never alone. And it is celebrating the fact that you are never alone. Some of you tuning in tonight, I do hope that you have families and loved ones that you are spending time with over the holiday season. I hope that tomorrow you have a splendid day. Some of you are coming in to get a little bit of a breather from whatever family may be visiting. Some of you may be bracing yourself for tomorrow. Some of you are very likely excited for tomorrow. But whether you're anxious for what's to come, whether you're anxious for what gifts you might be getting tomorrow, whether you're anxious of seeing that cousin that you love, or that aunt and uncle that's always a real pleasure and delight to see every year. Whether you spend Christmas with a friend, this is not a holiday where you should consider tying yourself down to biologicals, not to your blood. Christmas is about you and how you love yourself and how you try to love yourself to the best of your ability. And that means spending time with those who are important to you. Never let go of that. I'm glad you're here tonight, that you can share Christmas with me as I share it with you. I have 7 stories, 7 hearth-warming stories, I should say, that I'm going to treat all you dear listeners to tonight. And again, there's a lot of places you could be tonight on Christmas Eve, but I'm very, very grateful that you're spending it here with me. And I hope that you get a lot of out of it tonight as well. Because tonight is all about you and getting you in the holiday spirit. So, with all that being said, I would like to first thank Zachary for this. I'm just going to round up the $100 super chat. Thank you very much. Truly is the season of giving. Make sure you get a new pony content on YouTube for 2020, including Slime Pony Go 4. Yeah, that's pretty much regurgitating everything I was going to be getting at. I've had a very rough year, which is why my upload schedule has been pretty much nil. But I'm ready to come back. I needed to unplug for a while, and it truly goes to show the lengths of how much fans and people like you care when you are able to give me the time that I need. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. And before I get too more emotional over this, how about we just get right into our first story? One where Twilight Sparkle herself learns she needs just a little bit of encouragement to know what family really stands for. This is a Hearth's Warming Eve blessing. As soon as it loads, here we go. So, nestle under your blankets, warm up near your fires. And I hope you have some hot cocoa ready. If you're of age, and only of age, might I recommend putting in some either peppermint schnapps or, better yet, butterscotch schnapps. And you're in for a lovely evening with me. Let's begin. A Hearth's Warming Eve blessing. The night before Hearth's Warming Eve was always jubilant. The lights and decorations were up, and ponies gathered around the town to sing carols. It was always a sight to see. The holiday spirit shone through every window. Lights were wrapped around trees and hung on every house roof line. Ponies stopped every so often to admire the adornments of the holiday spirit. A pair of festivity admirers were walking down the street. One with a light orange coat, the other a deep red coat. Applejack and her older brother Big Mac scanned the street and took in the beauty around them. Applejack was wearing her straw cowgirl hat, adorned with a piece of holly, a red scarf, and green winter boots. Big Mac had a big green scarf and a pair of awkwardly large earmuffs. Applejack took a quick look over to Big Mac. "Thanks for joining me, Big Mac. I thought I was going to be on my own looking at these lights." Applejack wished her friends could be here to see this as well. They sure would have loved this, she thought. But then they had their own families that they would be celebrating with. And it was nice to have some one-on-one time with Big Mac. As they approached the edge of town, they heard the clanks and whistles of the train station. The decorations were beginning to thin out, but there were still pockets of enthusiastic designs to observe down the last street. As they passed the Golden Carriage, a popular blue-collar bar, the door flew open as a colt excited the establishment. Applejack thought she recognized a familiar purple mane at the counter of the bar. She blinked, then stared straight into the bar as a mare walked in, giving another opportunity to see who was at the counter. Of course, it was Twilight. Ooh. Big Mac, oblivious to Applejack's discovery, kept walking straight down the street. "Whoa, Big Macintosh, I see Twilight Sparkle over there." Big Mac stared back at AJ with perplexity.
Here's a station you might like.
I don't know why it does that. His deep voice echoed her concern. "I thought she was in Canterlot with her parents." "Me too. I wonder what she's doing back here in Ponyville," pondered Applejack. Applejack and Big Mac walked up the steps and into the bar. After they passed the threshold of the bar, Big Mac tapped AJ's shoulder, pointed at himself, then to an empty table. AJ nodded and walked up to the bar counter to an empty stool seat beside Twilight. Most of the patrons were mules and colts. Applejack stared at them as they raised glasses and voices to celebrate the end of another hard day's work. Raucous with laughter burst from different tables. Twilight was wearing a light blue scarf and 2 snow boots. The other 2 boots were on the ground next to her stool, dripping with melted snow. Her saddlebag, filled with clothes and books, lay plopped on the ground without care. She anxiously spun a half-finished drink, which smelled like an almond liqueur. Her mane was unkempt, most of her hair uncharacteristically out of place. She appeared lost in thought, while staring into her drink. Applejack interrupted her contemplation. "Hey there, Sugar Cube," she said. Twilight looked up at her with surprise. "Thought you'd be cozy with a cup of hot chocolate and candlelight by now." Twilight presented a lackluster smile. "Oh, hey, Applejack, what are you doing here?" she asked, giving her drink a quick glance. Yeah, home. Well, I..." Applejack sat down at the bar. She slapped her elbow on the counter and put on a confident smile. "You got a burr under your saddle there, Sugar Cube? You're looking pretty down, especially with it being Hearthwarming Eve and all." Twilight turned to her drink and looked down at it, slightly swaying her head to and fro, as though sorting out her own thoughts. She suddenly dipped her head a bit closer to her chest. "It's about my parents. I haven't talked to them or sent them a letter in almost a year now. You know I've been busy. My studies have taken up a lot of my time, not to mention all the stuff I do with my friends. I've been a horrible daughter." Twilight looked up from the ceiling and waved a hoof in the air. "I don't know how I lost track of the time. I'm I'm afraid that they might think I don't care about them. They're going to be disappointed in me." Twilight closed her eyes, covered her face with her hooves, and sighed. "A year is such a long time." Applejack frowned. It wasn't like Twilight to be so forgetful. Beside her, the unicorn took another sip of her drink. "I think I should just stay in the library tomorrow. Maybe get some reading done." The mare was practically trembling with guilt. A calm passed over Applejack's face as she realized what Twilight was going through. Applejack looked down on the counter and noticed a train ticket next to Twilight's drink. "Look, Twilight, I see what you're thinking. I have to say, you have it all wrong." Twilight looked up with a tightened face. "Being a part of a family means you gotta forget the past and live in the moment. And when your family sees you coming through the door, they're gonna be happy. Not mad, not disappointed. Just happy." Twilight looked at the mirror behind the line of bottles and wines and spirits. As she started to grasp the truth of Applejack's words, the anxiety drained from her face. Twilight sat up in her stool, pushed her forelegs against the counter, and straightening her back. This might be the coldest and harshest time of year, but that don't mean it can't be the happiest and warmest," Applejack continued. She leaned in towards Twilight and placed a hoof on her shoulder. "You should see your family." Twilight's horn glowed purple, and the glow spread across her mane. It instantly arranged her mane to its usual smooth look. "Yes," she said, flashing a bright smile at her friend. "I need to go." Twilight waved down the stallion bartender. As Twilight settled her tab, Applejack looked over to Big Mac and saw him chatting with a friendly mare with a fuchsia coat and purple floppy mane. She was waving a green cocktail in a martini glass, rocking slowly back and forth, and mumbling something about only living once. Applejack smiled as Twilight tossed 6 bits on the counter. Twilight knelt down, put on her boots and saddlebag, then turned back to the bar. The train ticket was still sitting on the counter. Swallowing hard, she stared at it for a moment. She glanced at Applejack, who gazed earnestly back at her. The ticket floated off the bar and tucked itself into her bag, and Applejack smiled. Slipping off the bar stool, Applejack wrapped a foreleg around Twilight's withers and led her towards the door. The two passed Big Mac and his new acquaintance. Big Mac, I'm going to show Twilight to the train station, she said with a smirk. I'll be right back. Take your time. I think I may order something. Big Mac looked over to the mare. A cider, probably, he said with a chuckle. Snow flurries began to fall as the two mares walked towards the train station. Some of the lights had been turned off for the evening, leaving the street dim and cold. Thanks, AJ, Twilight started. Applejack straightened her neck. For what? Calming my nerves, I guess. But I'm still afraid that I won't. She looked up at Applejack, apparently at a loss for words. Won't what, Sugar Cube? Twilight's brow furrowed. It was clear to Applejack she wasn't used to this. Twilight was a pony to whom words usually came so easily. That I won't be able to keep it together, I guess. That I'll break down when I get closer to home. That I won't be able to handle letting them down. Applejack felt compassion for her friend and frowned. They reached the entrance of the train station. The sounds of the idling train hummed in the air. The steam flowed low on the platform. There were no decorations around, except for a dull wreath on the ticket window. Applejack giggled, then composed herself. Do you know what a group of unicorns is called? Twilight looked at the train. She cracked a smile and chuckled. It's called a blessing. Her eyes were watering. The moment was interrupted by the ear-spitting blast of the train whistle. Now hurry, say hi to your blessing for me. And don't worry your pretty little head, Applejack hollered. Twilight reached into her bag and pulled out her ticket. She showed it to a conductor and hopped into the cart. She found her window seat just as the train gave a loud hiss and bumped forward. With a deep thud, a sharp clack, and then lurched a notch faster. Twilight opened her window, stuck her hoof out, and started waving excitedly. Thank you, Applejack. Have a great hearthwarming eve. Thank you! Alone on the platform, Applejack took her hat off and waved it gleefully. She watched Twilight wave her foreleg until she disappeared into a distant swaying snow. Applejack slid her hat back on. She stood and watched the train until it was almost out of sight. She turned around, giving the train one last glance. As she strolled to the exit, her mind wandered to her own family. A warm feeling rose in her chest. Suddenly her grin faded from her face. Oh no, Big Mac! I hope he's getting himself into any trouble now. And that concludes our first story. It doesn't matter what sort of trials and tribulations you go through in the year. Somewhere out there will always be a family for you to come home to. That is something you should take to heart. I will be completely honest, I did not get a chance to read all the stories that I selected tonight, but I made sure that they were heartwarming enough to keep you warm on a nice Christmas Eve. In the midst of that story, I received a $10 super chat, a $10 holla from DKK, and, oh my goodness, a second 100 from Zachary. Thank you. You're a mad lad. I really don't have words to describe my gratefulness, but thank you very much. As I get ready for the next story, if any of you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and I will try and answer them to the best of my ability. It'll be just a moment as I set up writing things in for the next tidbit here. Blaze Lantern, hello. Welcome to the Hearthswarming Eve live narration stream. What is my favorite story? If we're talking MLP, it's probably the Silent Ponyville collective. If we're talking horror, I'm a big fan of this other grimdark, but it's a very action grimdark called The Immortal Game. My favorite comedy is one that I've done on my channel called Twilight Sparkle Gets a Free Salad. I did that one back in 2015 if you feel like checking it out. I mean, maybe not right now because I am doing my best to entertain doing my best to entertain all of you right now. Samuel Pierce 2.0, welcome to the live stream, baby. Settle in with some cocoa. Hammered turkey? Oh, turkey all the way. Just drizzling that in barbecue sauce. Slide for Marvel 18. I am lovely this evening. Thank you for joining the chat, baby. Settle in with some milk and cookies. We're getting into our second story in just a moment. We're having a nice low-key evening. 25 of you showing up here tonight, and I appreciate it. Doing a good job of the entertaining part. Well, I certainly try. We're just keeping it real chill this evening. Merry Christmas from Denmark. Thank you for saving my work night. Well, I'm glad you can listen at work. There's not a lot of jobs out there to let you do that. But if it's helping you get through the night, then by all means. It's already Christmas Day over there, so I hope that you have a lovely holiday. And you do have the opportunity to break away from work to spend the time you need to with loved ones and relax. Okay, this next one. Second story tonight is called A White Hearthswarming. When a young sunset shimmer, spending her first hearthswarming in Canterlock as Princess Celestia's personal student, comes to the terrible realization that there's not going to be any snow for the holiday, she decides to do something about it. It was, by all accounts, a beautiful day. The sun shone brightly, the grass was green and springy underhoof, and the temperature was just brisk enough that ponies could justify putting on their winter clothes, but not so cold that they couldn't leave them behind at home if they decided that those clothes weren't quite as fetching as they'd imagined when they brought them. It was a sort of day about which no reasonable pony could possibly complain. "Oh, sweet Celestia, this weather is the worst!" cried Sunset Shimmer, smacking a hoof against the windowsill as she glared at the outside world. "I'm right here, you know," said Princess Celestia, a smile curling to the corners of her lips. She joined Sunset at the window, looking out upon the city of Canterlot in its sprawling glory. "There's no need for such dramatics, I'm sure." Sunset was not mollified. "But look! There's no snow, and hearthswarming is tomorrow. How are we supposed to have a hearthswarming with no snow?" Celestia put a wing over Sunset's back, guiding her gently away from the window and towards the center of the castle chamber. "I have seen hundreds of hearthswarmings, my dear student, and I can assure you that a lack of snow has never once caused the holiday to be cancelled. In fact, in some of the southern parts of Equestria, it almost never snows for hearthswarming, And Pony still, I don't care what they do in the South. Yo, that's a mood. There's supposed to be snow on the ground at Hearthswarming. There's always snow. I'm just kidding, by the way. I scrolled and lost my place. Here we go. Celestia's face became more neutral as she lifted her wing. Sunset clamped her mouth shut, aware that the princess was no longer humoring her. Sunset, what 3 words have I asked you to stop using in my presence? A half-hearted mumble was her only answer. Sunset, I don't care. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I just... Sunset looked down, frowning at the carpet. I like the snow, and it should snow for Hearthswarming. She scuffed a hoof. It always snows for Hearthswarming. Celestia smiled again. Perhaps it always has in your lifetime, but I assure you that this will not be the first time I've seen the spires of Canterlot bare for the holidays. And speaking from experience, she leaned close and looked at Sunset with a twinkle in her eye. Those years were no less special to me. Sunset nodded weakly. Okay, she said, her voice still a bit too weak for her own liking. Celestia nodded back, then straightened and walked to the door. I have business to attend to, but I would very much like to see you again this evening. Until then... Rather than speak and risk her voice betraying her again, Sunset simply nodded one more time, and Celestia opened the door. Pausing as she exited, the princess looked back to her student. Already, Sunset noted, her face bore that opaque mask which she invariably wore in public. It was the only expression of hers which most ponies had ever known. But Sunset had seen what lay behind it often enough in the last year to recognize the effect. Celestia spoke. Oh, and Sunset, until then, perhaps you might consider reflecting on the history of Hearthswarming. A knowing grin peeked through the mask. Just for a second, I think you're going to find your concerns put at ease soon enough. With that, she closed the door gently. Oh, I don't like where this is going. I do not like where this is going. Reflecting on the history of Hearthswarming might have seemed to most ponies like a kindly way of brushing someone off, but Sunset Shimmer wasn't most ponies. She'd been the princess's prize student for almost a year now, and she knew a test when she saw one. So the passage of an hour saw her hunched over a heavy oak table near the back of the royal library, her head buried deep in a history book, looking for some clue as to what Celestia might have meant. Page after page flew by as she muttered to herself, trying to find something that would shed some light on the princess's cryptic phrasing. After all, when had she ever not been cryptic? You'll find your concerns put at ease, she muttered to herself, rolling the words over in her mind. With a shake of her head, she dove back into her reading. She wormed her way through the books as fast as comprehension allowed, until... Aha! She cried triumphantly, leaping up on the table and dramatically planting her hoof on an illustration of the 3 tribes fleeing their homelands. At last, she knew shushed the matronly librarian. Sunset bristled, but she'd long since learned not to doubt the resolve of the library's dry, dusty, and unfailingly cranked sentinels. Or at least, not to doubt their ability to get in trouble with Celestia. She got down off the table and took her seat quietly. Aha, she whispered, gently setting her hoof on an illustration of the 3 tribes fleeing their homelands. At last, she knew exactly what she needed to do. Celestia loomed over Sunset Shimmer. Normally, she would lower her neck to look sunset in the eyes when they talked. But now she stood tall, staring sternly down, her disappointment plain to see. The sunset shimmer glared back up at her, standing her ground as she tried to meet that disappointment with her own defiance. After a tense moment, Celestia sighed and took a seat. Sunset remained standing. "Sunset," Celestia said, rubbing the base of her horn with a hoof. "Would you care to tell me why I'm returning from court to find that you've been restricted to my chamber for your own good?" "You already asked the guard at the door," Sunset said, unable to keep the pout from her face, from her voice, even as she continued to glare. "Why don't you tell me what he said?" Celestia sighed again. She didn't speak right away, but after a few moments, she answered. "He told me you've been spending the afternoon running around the castle, insulting every pony you met. He told me you've been rushing about, seemingly bent on being as unpleasant as possible to as many ponies as you can. He told me he literally followed a path of crying fillies and colts to find you, and that he brought you here as much for your own safety as for the sanity of every pony in the castle." She pursed her lips. "He also told me that you said to him, and I quote, that you enjoy your power trip while you can, because when I become a princess, I'm going to throw you out on the street like the dirty mule you are." Sunset didn't flinch. "I don't care if it's rude. Mules are dirty. What 3 words have I don't care!" Sunset cried. "I don't care, Celestia! I did exactly what you said, and what happened? I got picked up by the scruff above my neck and sent to the teacher's room like a little foal. What is this supposed to teach me, Celestia? Huh? What? Huh? What?" Ugh. Celestia shook her head, and suddenly Sunset thought she looked very old. "Sunset, have I ever given you a single lesson which could be solved with cruelty?" She looked her student in the eye. "Tell me first, what do you think I was trying to teach you?" "You said I should study hearth swarming so that I could fix this stupid weather," Sunset said. Her eyes started to water, but she soldiered on. "You said if I thought about it, I'd figure out how to make everything better, and I did. I figured it out. I mean, I read all the books about how ponies back before the founding were angry and mean to each other, and that made the Wendigos come and cover everything with ice. But even then, I tried to make every pony really mad. They never came." A bit of iron returned to her voice as she added, "And then your stupid guard locked me in here." "Sunset," she began, peeking between the drawn curtains and peering outside. "Do you really think that I would want you to spread anger and sadness across the city? Do you truly believe that is what I intended for you to learn?" Sunset grimaced. "I did what you wanted to do without regard for others. If you had studied the meaning of the first hearth swarming, and not just its events, you would have learned something rather different. You would have learned, just as Smart Cookie, Private Pansy, and Clover the Clever did, that true power doesn't come from the blustery bravado or riding roughshod over any pony who is in your way. True power comes from a kinder, more beautiful place." Turning to face her student, she said, "Come here, Sunset, and look out over Canterlot." Cringing, Sunset trotted up to the window and pushed aside the curtains. Then she gasped. "It can't be. It's—" Her voice caught, but finally she whispered, "It's snowing." Outside, teams of Pegasi pushed cloud after cloud into position, forming a wispy gray ceiling over the city. As they were moved into place, other teams began coaxing snow out of them. Only a few flurries, but more all the time. Already the spires of Canterlot were dusted with white. "It won't be much, it won't be much. Just a half inch or so. Still, it seems we'll be having a white hearth swarming after all." Sunset gaped. Did you do this? When Celestia nodded, she broke into a grin which spread nearly ear to ear. You did it. You ordered all those. I asked them, Sunset. She gestured to the window. Every pony out there is a volunteer, working together to bring a bit of snow to Canterlot. Not just for you, but for all the ponies in this city who wished for a white hearthwarming. Celestia wrapped her wing around Sunset. This is the lesson I wanted you to learn. That when ponies work together in friendship and harmony, there is nothing they cannot do. Sunset snuggled against the princess, never taking her eyes off the window. So, if I act nice, ponies will do what I want, without me having to order them around? Celestia opened her mouth, then closed it again. After a long moment, she smiled. I suppose that's close enough for now. Sunset frowned, even as her eyes remained full of wonder. I don't want to be close enough, she said, still watching the flurries fall. I know you don't, and I believe this is a lesson you will fully grasp in time. Perhaps not this very moment, but I am certain that there will come a day when you look back to this evening and understand with perfect clarity. She gazed out the window at Sunset. You have much to learn, my dear student, but I have no doubt that you will go on to do great things one day. Together, the two of them watched the snowfall. It was, by all accounts, a beautiful night. The moon glowed gently, the snow was clean and white upon the rooftops, and the temperature was just brisk enough for ponies to feel properly grateful to be sitting inside by the roaring fires, without being so cold that they'd actually feel concerned about the prospect of having to make a trip to the shed to get more wood. It was the sort of night about which no reasonable pony could possibly complain. Happy hearthwarming, my dear student, murmured Princess Celestia. She carefully tucked a blanket around Sunset Shimmer, who was curled up next to her by the fire. Sunset didn't reply. She was already fast asleep. And that concludes our second story of the night. I liked that one. Here I was thinking she was going to be toiling in dark magics to summon the Wendigos, but nope, she just kind of went the more cruel Twilight route of just treating everyone around her like dirt and being like, I'm going to be shitty to you, so because I want them to come and I want snow. Yeah, that was a clever little story. A little before the show began. What's the one I'm looking for? Sort of a fan prequel. There we go. That's a real nice one. I've been seeing a lot of well wishes in the chat to me and to each other. I really like to see that, guys. And thank you all for joining in this evening. I'm going to take a quick little breather to hit the John, as well as refuel my water, because I'm going to need a lot of water to get through these tonight. So we will take a quick 5-minute break. So I've been settling here for the past minute or so, trying to figure how to show my gratitude towards that super chat. But I got nothing. But do know that I do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I'm going to get things warmed up for the next story here. About like that. Yeah. So this next one is a Rainbow Dash story. Oh, Langston Lexvold, the $4.99 super chat. Thank you for the small contrib. And thank you for watching my videos. I appreciate it. I'm hoping to make more in the next year. And continue with Pokemon Crystal Randomizer. I know people have been asking me about that lately, so... once I get a good schedule figured for it, I'll try to be better about doing that. So, let me... mess around my windows a bit here real quick. All right. So, since we are back and settled in, we're going to go ahead and get cooking with our third story for the night. So I had 7 stories lined up tonight. Funny thing is, I originally had 8, but then looking over the last one, I thought, yeah, you know what, I could do this. But then I realized, oh, this is like 18,000 words. And I'm like, nah, I think that all the stories leading up to every other story tonight would, each one probably total would come up to like 15,000-ish, but then like that multi-part at the end was like 18,000. I'm like, no. I'm gonna flatline if I did that. So let's see here. Yeah, some of y'all talking about not being able to drop stuff in Super Chat. Do not feel bad about it. I'd rather you hang on to your muns than drop them on little old me. I'm just here to entertain. I'm here to give you a presence and a voice, to give you guys a presence and a voice to relax to on Christmas Eve and put y'all at ease for the holiday. So, that said, our next story for the night is a Rainbow Dash story. The meaning of hearthswarming. And are you not entertained? References. Alright. Rainbow Dash searches for meaning in a time of commercialism. Oof. I wonder how Cyber Monday in Ponyville works. Okay. Rainbow Dash was excited. The kind of excited she typically only felt while flying. It was finally her favorite day of the year, Hearthswarming Eve. It was a glorious morning. The snow blanketed the ground in a white sheet. As she looked out the window of her skyward home, she saw pillars of smoke arising from Pony's chimneys. Rainbow threw on her coat, scarf, and her favorite beanie and set out for town. Oh, Rainbow in a beanie. She found herself in the middle of the market, and she was a bit taken aback by the display. In front of her were dozens and dozens of ponies, all shopping at the last minute. All seemed to be in a hurry, muzzles to the ground. No pony seemed to be appreciating what a beautiful day it was in Ponyville. Rainbow shrugged it off. Besides, she was feeling rather pleased with herself for getting all of her shopping done early. And then it caught her eye. Her favorite seasonal treat, a nice warm cup of peppermint mocha. Ooh. I do like peppermint mocha. She's got good taste. Hi there, I'm Rainbow Dash. How are you this morning? She asked, approaching the stall. I'm Starbuck. Would you like to buy something? Ah, ha, 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 ha. I see what they did there. The pony replied after monotonously. I'm Starbuck. Would you like to buy something? The pony replied rather monotonously. Sure, like a peppermint mocha. 7 bits. Rainbow was then suddenly pondering 2 things. 1, she wasn't aware it possible for somebody to lack all expression when having a conversation. And secondly, 7 bits for a mocha? Would you like to buy some or not? I never pay that much! Exclaimed the rainbow-maned Pegasus. Then clear out. You're driving away business. Guess I'll just have to get my mocha somewhere else. Starbucks is just too overpriced. Rainbow thought while she angrily stomped away from the stall. So Rainbow continued to walk around the market. That's why you get gift cards to Starbuck. That's why you get gift cards. That way you're not, well, that way technically someone else is paying them for you. So, yeah. So Rainbow continued to walk around the market. She sighs, proclaiming the latest and greatest things that you need to buy and must have for your loved ones for hearthwarming, along with how much you should pay for them and why. Ponies loudly... Diamond industry! Jewelry industry! Sorry, got a bug in my throat there, guys. Let me take a sip of water. Okay. Sorry, I don't know what came over me there. Proclaiming what great hearthwarming deals they had. Was that what hearthwarming was about? The best deals, the whole scene made Rainbow sick to her stomach. Did they not know? Had they not heard? It's Hearthwarming Eve. Rainbow continued her walk, feeling a bit more depressed. A short time later, Rainbow spied a familiar face amongst the crowd. An orange pony with a blonde mane with her signature cowboy hat on. Berry Punch. I'm kidding. Beaming next to her car of apple-flavored goodies. Rainbow got excited at the sight of her friend. She knew all ponies AJ would be selling out. Well, howdy, Rainbow, Applejack said at the sight of her friend. Hey, AJ, happy Hearthwarming Eve. Rainbow stole a quick glance at her prices and was relieved to see that they were still the same. Her spirits brightened a bit at the fact that some pony hadn't been swept up in all this commercialism. Same to you, Sugar Cube. Don't you typically spend these 2 days with your family? Why are you out here? Rainbow asked. Well, Brainbird and Caramel came down. Them and Big Macintosh are bucking the South Orchard today. I'm running the apple stand, and Apple Bloom is with her friends today, Applejack explained. But you all are spending tomorrow together, right? Well, of course. We'll get our presents in the morning. Of course, I suppose the South Orchard will need bucking later, said Applejack, sounding slightly worried. You're all going to be working for Hearthwarming? Well, we got a bit of a late start this year, so it needs to get done, you know, Applejack reassured. Can it wait? I suppose it could, but there's no time like the present, right? Applejack said. But, wouldn't you guys rather spend time as a family? Rainbow asked. I mean, it's heartwarming. I know you're always hardworking, AJ, but hey now, don't y'all go question my loyalty to my family. Sorry, AJ, I just... Rainbow was abruptly cut off by a loud rumbling coming from her stomach. She glanced at the clock tower and saw it was already 1 o'clock. And she hadn't eaten a thing all day. Sorry, AJ, I'm starved. I'm gonna go get some lunch, said Rainbow, no longer wishing to continue the conversation. The two exchanged goodbyes, and Rainbow set off down the busy road to her favorite pastry shop, slightly sadder than she was before. As if it were drawing near, she saw a stallion in the middle of the road collecting donations for feeding fillies. They were an organization that helped feed kids who were less fortunate this time of year. Rainbow dropped a bit into the bucket, wished the stallion a happy hearthwarming, and went into the pastry shop. The warm smell of fresh-baked bread, along with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, filled her snout, giving her momentary bliss. She approached the counter, got her long-overdue peppermint mocha, a big muffin, and took a seat in the corner booth. And she began to watch the stallion collecting the donations. He was a white Pegasus with brown hair. His cutie mark appeared to be an olive branch. He stood there, smiling at ponies who passed by, ringing a silver bell occasionally. Wow, just as the big... Hang on. So, I said the bell ringing, and believe it or not, just as I meant the part about the silver bell ringing, so I have It's a Wonderful Life on my TV muted in front of me here. And just as I said that, the bell ringing on the tree where Clarence gets his wings, that could not have been better timed. Anyway. Rainbow Dash watched dozens and dozens of ponies pass by him without a second glance. She couldn't believe it. I mean, these were starving fillies. Were ponies really so busy that they couldn't be bothered to help feed an unfortunate filly? Rainbow's heart broke watching the display, as did her appetite. She downed the rest of her drink and sulked out of the small shop. Feeling bad, she had dropped 2 more bits into the bucket and proceeded down the road once more. Rainbow plodded around town for many hours, hoping to find something, anything that rekindled how she felt on Hearthwarming Eve as a filly, but only came up with more of the same. Ponies just didn't seem to care that it was Hearthwarming Eve. It was just that it was Hearthwarming Eve. It was just another day for them, and they were slightly upset that this day entailed them buying gifts, which they then had to go through all the trouble of wrapping. Then they were forced to spend time with those considered family and pretend to love them for a whole day. Rainbow Dash was sad. Had she grown out of the spirit of hearthwarming, or had everyone else? As these questions went through her head, she saw a familiar sight in the distance. A white unicorn with a well-kept purple mane, levitating a couple of bags in a blue aura. Rainbow hoped that the element of generosity wouldn't be as swept up in all this holiday dementia as every pony else. "Hey, happy hearthwarming, Rarity," Rainbow Dash said with a dash of hope. "Rainbow Dash, I'm glad you're here. Try this on," said Rarity, as her face lit up. A beautiful diamond-studded necklace with a white gold chain was levitated out of the bag onto Dash's neck. She could tell it was very valuable. Don't you think this would look just darling on Fluttershy?" I don't know. Does this really seem like her style?" "But of course. This is a one-of-a-kind design from Naaman Marcus. Oh, nice. It's extremely expensive, Rainbow. I'm sure she'll love it. Why wouldn't she? It's just, don't you think Fluttershy is kind of more, down to earth? Well, she's a Pegasus. No, I mean, you think that Fluttershy would prefer something more, I don't know, modest? Rainbow Dash asked politely. Just look at it. Diamonds, gold, all handcrafted. And it costs more than... It's not about the money, interjected Rainbow. Rarity stared at Dash, mouth agape for a good 5 seconds before turning up her nose and trotting away, but not before adding, I'll keep that in mind buying your present then. Yikes. Big yikes. Rainbow Dash was sad. She didn't have any desire to hurt her friend's feelings. She was just trying to be helpful, even if it meant telling the truth. This was shaping up to be the worst hearthwarming of her life. She remembered hearthwarming as a kid, so full of wonder and joy. Everybody coming together to celebrate. She remembered the bright, colorfully wrapped presents she couldn't wait to open. She remembered sitting by the fire and waiting until its last embers burned away. She remembered getting her first pair of flight goggles, getting tickets to see the Wonderbolts. But of course, she remembered the bad times. She remembered breaking her leg playing with her new sled. She remembered her parents telling her that her bunny had ran away. And she remembered the year they told her that her grandmother wouldn't be joining the hearthwarming. But one thing was always the same. She and her family were always together. And she always knew she was loved. Dash knew she was way too awesome to ever admit to anyone that she actually did enjoy mushy family stuff around hearthwarming. It brought about a feeling of love. Standing in the streets of Ponyville as the sun began to sink, Rainbow Dash didn't feel loved. Oh, my coworkers are on TV. It's because I work in TV. But as much as I love you guys, I gotta have some kind of Christmas movie on in the background. Not A Christmas Story. And not Hallmark either. Sorry, 1 second. I'll be just a second. Hold up. Isn't Die Hard or something on? Come on. This'll do. In fact, she felt angry. Not the kind of anger you get at your favorite hoofball team losing. It's the kind of helpless, sad anger you get when you're injured or when someone close to you passes away. And to Dash, it was as if someone had passed away. It was a snowy night in Ponyville. The streets were scarcely populated. Fillies everywhere were going to bed, anxiously awaiting the coming morning. Just like you listeners out there tonight. On one particular street corner, there was a rather distraught Pegasus. Sitting there on a bench, Rainbow Dash recalled the horrible days she had just experienced. She experienced commercialism firsthand. She argued with her friends, saw the lack of regard for family, and the apathy everyone seemed to have. Staring up at the falling snow, she asked, "Isn't there any pony who knows what hearthwarming is all about?" Rainbow wasn't sure who she was asking. The snow, the sky, Luna's moon, herself. But she definitely didn't expect an answer. I can tell you... Oh, my Kleenex. Ew. Sure, I can tell you what hearthwarming is all about. Rainbow Dash let out a small gasp and spun her head to the side to see who it was, and was slightly surprised to see a familiar face. "Hey, you're the guy who was collecting for charity outside the cafe, weren't you?" Rainbow queried. "That'll be me. I'm Pax. Thanks again for your donation." So tell me then, what is hearthwarming all about? Well, as you know, we're celebrating our ancestors coming together, making peace with one another, and deciding to share Equestria with each other. Yeah, I know the whole history part about it, but what does it mean to ponies today? What should it mean in my life? Well, don't you see? What our ancestors were doing is what we should be doing. Coming together, making peace, sharing and giving to each other. It was what founded Hearthswarming, and it's what we should cherish now. Rainbow Dash liked the answer, but still needed to be satisfied. But no pony is behaving that way. It's all commercialism and fashion, and ponies doing only what pleases them, and no pony else. How am I supposed to get past all of that? Well, sharing the holiday with one another, giving of yourself, letting people know that they're loved, it gets you past all this commercialism. Well, I guess you're right, but it's just so hard sometimes. Where's all the spirit gone? It never left. It's still there, it's faint. Its grass is withered, its flowers fallen, but it still lives on in the heart of every pony. You just need to tap into it. But how do I do that? Do you enjoy giving? Do you enjoy feeling loved? Well, yeah, of course. If you showed other ponies how good it felt to give, how nice it was to be loved, and what a great time of year this is, they'll want to pass that on to every pony else. That's the greatest gift you can give someone in Hearthswarming, and it's something no pony can put a price tag on. Rainbow liked that answer. She sat and pondered it briefly, and thanked Pax profusely. He gave her a candy cane in return for her earlier donation, and the pleasant conversation, and they departed from each other. Rainbow trotted down the road for a little, toward her home, deep in thought, and she spotted a slightly familiar figure walking home. Head down, he looked angry. It was Starbuck. How many times did he feel loved today? Rainbow asked herself. She approached him, held out the candy cane Pax had given her, and said, "Hey, I hope you're having a very happy Hearthswarming." He looked confused, a bit taken aback, and after a few seconds, he slowly reached for the candy cane. Unsure if it was a trick or not, he grabbed it and spoke. "You too," he said, sounding more content. And there Rainbow Dash saw it, in his eyes, spirit, in the most unlikely of places. She spread her wings and took to the snowy sky. She flew toward her home, feeling the snow in her face. Rainbow Dash was happy. And every dream that herein sleeps has a child whose heart it keeps. And now for someone else's sake, one by one, those dreams awake. These have all been pretty heartwarming so far. Which is cool because this next one is a comedy. So we're gonna apply the seltzer water. I don't know what that means. I don't know why I just said that, but I hope it means something. All right. So let me go ahead and get this next thing fired up. Hope y'all are enjoying the stream so far, by the by. Appears to be about a little over 30 of you right now. So I guess I must be doing a pretty good job, at least. flip through the channels to see if like Home Alone or Die Hard is on or something. I love those. Oh, you can play Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, but you can't play Die Hard? Come on. Come on! Ooh, Nightmare on Elm Street. That's a Christmas movie. Let's see here. Just type this in. Yeah, it was put on Griswolds, why not? National Lampoon never hurt nobody. Except everybody. Alright. You know, one of these stories isn't really a hearthwarming story, so I'm just gonna... And it's also like 6,000 words, so I'm just gonna... Boop! Strike it from the record. Also, we have passed the 10 p.m. mark, Central Time, which means that for those of you on the East Coast and Eastern Time Zone, that means it is now less than an hour until Christmas morning. So we're going to keep the stream chugging along. This next one, well, here's the descriptor. Queen Chrysalis has given Princess Celestia and Princess Luna an unwelcome gift for hearthwarming. Thankfully, they can re-gift it to some pony. Who can re-gift it to some pony? 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 Yeah, this is Mary Re-Gift-Miss. I do love me some Changeling Hijinks. By the way, Changeling Hijinks is my new band name. Just saying. Alright. Ho ho holiday hijinks. Let's do this. Is it an STD? No, it's a band name. Alright. Ooh, a present! Luna and Celestia struggled to see who would get to the large wrapped gift first, despite the two guards surrounding it with drawn spears and fierce scowls. I love hearthwarming. Who does it say it's for? Asked Celestia. Both of you, actually, said the first guard. It just showed up without going through security, so we're going to take it to the receiving yard for scans and thorough examination to find out what's inside. And if it's cake, I'll never see it, said Celestia. Well, admitted the guard with a short licking of his lips. I'll admit there's a little sampling that goes on this time of year. Or we could just open it, said Luna, pulling the top and looking inside, followed him almost immediately by Celestia. The changeling in the box looked up at them and smiled. Hello! No, it's not a toad voice. Hey! Mario! Celestia! No, it's all right, we're not doing that anymore. I'm not going to kill my voice. We're halfway through here. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Hello. Then it closed its eyes and gave out a quiet, satisfied hiss that was vaguely suggestive. You're so full of love, your highnesses. The sound of a... I knew you fucking people would like that. God damn it all to hell. Alright. The sound of a pony clattering down the hallway shook Celestia and Luna out of their stunned disbelief. Wow, okay, that blew the chat up. I'm sorry. God damn it. I just see it in there. When I see hello with an exclamation mark, I can't not do it as Toad. My fucking Toad voice. To the people who fell asleep listening to this stream who are now awake, well, wakey wakey, eggs and bakey. Anyway. You're so full of love, your highnesses. The sound of a pony clattering down the hallway shook Celestia and Luna out of their stunned disbelief, with Celestia slamming the lid back down in the box, and Luna writing on the label. Send this to Twilight Sparkle right away, snapped Celestia. But, managed the guard before Luna shoved him towards the exit, Cadence would have kittens if she saw a changeling right now. Just go! He fairly fell out of the door as Cadence bounced in with a happy Heart Swimming Eve, aunties! Isn't this just the most wonderful day ever? She hesitated with a look at the box. Did that gift just moan? It's a puppy, said Celestia. For Twilight. She was asking about one, and I thought I'd give her one for Hearthswarming, but it's all packed up and ready to go, and the guard was just on his way to take it there, so we don't want to keep him waiting. Luna promptly moved to escort her fellow princess into the room. Come on in and have breakfast while you tell me all about your time in the Crystal Empire. She made shooing motions behind Cadence's back until the guard had gotten out of the room and closed the door. I didn't even get breakfast this morning, grumbled the guard while he got a good grip on the box's ribbon and started flying. The box burped. I did. Shut up, said the guard. Shut up, said the guard. I'm taking you to Twilight Sparkle like I was ordered. Oh, a Hearthswarming gift from Princess Celestia and Princess Luna. Princess Twilight Sparkle nearly danced around the royal guard, carrying the large box, while Spike stood to one side, out of immediate trampling range. I wonder what's in it. Should I go stick it under the tree and open it tomorrow? I'd open it today, said the box in a muffled voice. Wait. Twilight eyed the guard, who was slowly edging away. What did they send me? Hey, it's a changeling, said Spike, who had taken advantage of Twilight's distraction to open the box and look inside. That's unique. My own changeling? Twilight looked into the box with a smile that turned rapidly into a terrified frown. Oh no, my parents are coming over for Hearthswarming. I'm sure they're very lovely ponies. Loving ponies, said the changeling. I'd love to meet them. Changeling needs a voice. I'm sure they're very loving ponies. I'd love to meet them. Your mom will freak. Want me to go over to Rarities and get her started on wedding dresses? On a wedding dress? No! Mom's not that obsessed about finding me a cult friend, really. I'm a mare. Oh, fuck. Now I have to make it a girl. Run. Run. I'm a mare. Fuck. I'm a mare. I can't do it. I don't know what voice to give this fucking changeling. I'll just do. I'm a mare, said the changeling, peeking over the side of the box. But I'm open to that kind of relationship, provided there's love in it. No, I don't want a relationship with a changeling, snapped Twilight before casting a determined look at the guard, who started to immediately backpedal. Damn it, now everybody's running in the chat. Run. Run. Toad. Hello! Don't look at me. I'm married already. Don't look at me. Wait, who said this? Twilight snapped Twilight before casting a determined look at the guard, who started to immediately backpedal. Oh, it's the guard. Don't look at me. I'm married already. The changeling snorted. Ha! Not a guard either, protested Twilight. Just, I'll bet Applejack would appreciate having some pony out on the farm to help out this winter. Spike rolled his eyes. Is there anything like the way you hide Brussels sprouts in your napkin every time we visit your parents? No! Twilight slammed the lid back down on the box before the changeling could cry out. It's a gift! God damn it, this stream just hit the downhill slope, man. Hello! Run. Fuck. I fucking love that run meme. You guys ever see the prank with like the two nuns? The one with the nuns is the funniest shit. I need to tweet that shit out. Anyway. Well, don't that beat all? Applejack looked at the huge box and gave a slow whistle. Twilight done sent us the hearthwarming gift. Come on in and set for a spell, Mr. Guard. I'll bet you're tired of carrying that box this far. Well, started the guard, who had just begun to edge its way out of the warm, fragrant farmhouse back into the chilly cold. And I'll get you a big slice of fresh apple pie on account of it just came out of the oven and probably need some sampling to make sure we're keeping up to our quality control. What little willpower the guard had melted like butter in the oven. Oh my god. Applejack is cooking guards! Holy shit! Run. He allowed himself to be seated on the broad table, already heaped in hearth-warming cookies and sweets. Oh, thank God. Took the slice of apple pie and breathed deeply. Ah, said the box. Apple pie, love. Some of the best stuff. Applejack started, then ran over to the box and tore open the top. It's a changeling! The guard nodded because his mouth was full. None. What's Twilight doing sending us a changeling? Demanded Applejack. I'm very helpful and I don't eat that much, said the changeling, poking her head over to the edge of the box. She took a long, deep sniff with a growing smile. There's so much love here, and I'd hate to see it go to waste. No way! Applejack slammed the lid back down on the box and turned to the guard. You take 'em! We're not allowed to take gifts, said the guard from around his mouthful of pie. Besides, it's not a crime to be a changeling. You think this is funny? Applejack glared at the guard, who hesitantly nodded after a long consideration of the topic, and coming to the realization that he was not going to get another slice of pie from her ever again anyway. So why not be honest? Applejack slammed the lid back down on the changeling, who had poked her nose out to make a comment. Take the varmint to Rainbow Dash then. She'll get a hoot out of using it as a punching bag. Applejack glared while the guard flew away, with faint muffled protests coming from inside the box. Oh man, this changeling is getting the worst. Rainbow Dash eyed the box that the Whirl Guard had put down in the middle of her living room cloud carpet. You say Applejack sent this? The guard nodded, and quietly licked a tiny fragment of apple pie off the corner of his mouth. Did she sound a little angry? Started Rainbow Dash while making a trip around the box. Like she may not have gotten over... Hey, it moved. Yeah, about that. The guard began to inch his way to the door. Can I go now? He was unable to make his escape before Rainbow Dash tore the top of the box and looked inside. A changeling! She looked up, catching the guard at the doorway. That means you're a changeling too! Bitch! That's not in the story, I just added that. 5 minutes of pain later. Well, maybe you're not a changeling. Oof, poor guard. Rainbow Dash looked down at the battered guard, who had managed to break a cloud couch, a cloud chair, and a bookshelf, not a cloud, with his body in the process of Rainbow's changeling identification. They fight better. Ow! The guard looked up and blinked away at the Rainbow Dashes looming over him. Still, that wasn't bad, said Rainbow. Are you single? Yes, he is, came a voice out of the kitchen. You have any more peanut butter? You're out. I'm not out. I just bought a whole new jar. The changeling came strolling back into the cloud living room with dabs of peanut butter smeared all over her face and all the way up to the tip of her horn while licking the peanut buttered hoof. Rainbow Dash grabbed the changeling and stuffed her back in the box, slamming the lid on afterwards. She's a mess. She actually, said the guard while staring back to his hooves and finding where his helmet had been tossed, as Rainbow Dash misidentifies Miss Ginger summoning in 2019! How can you tell? How can you tell? Never mind, added Rainbow Dash, scribbling on the gift tag. Here, I didn't get Rarity a gift yet for her swarming. Make sure she opens it before you leave. Darling, Rarity slipped across the floor of the Carousel Boutique and swept the unsuspecting guard in the direction of the dresses. That means you're a changeling! Run. Get in the box! Get in the fucking box! Little changeling ass bitch! Come in. Have a seat, sir. And a gift. She paused and gave the guard a curious sorry. My peripherals keep going over to the chat. Run. She paused and gave the guard a curious look. It's not from Blue Blood, is it? No, said the guard, still a little stunned at the speed that a plate with cucumber sandwiches had been produced and an iced mineral water placed right in his hoof. It's from Rainbow Dash. She said I should make sure you open it before I leave. I really can't stay long, he added, looking longingly out the door. Well, I certainly hope that it is not her returning that magnificent dress I made for her last week. Rarity squealed and grabbed the lid of the box. I love everything about hearthswarming, particularly giving presents. She tore off the lid, looking inside, and paused for a very, very long time before quietly saying, Oh God, she belches. Ahem. Yes, said the guard, who had grabbed a cucumber sandwich because the calories he had picked up from the apple pie had long ago been burned in the chill outside. You said Rainbow Dash sent this. The guard nodded and swallowed. Sit. Rarity turned and headed for the back room, with the open gift floating behind her. I really need to get back to... Sit! Commanded Rarity over her shoulder. Stay! The guard sat back down. So, where are you going? He asked, a little afraid of what the answer was going to be. None of your business. Rarity vanished into the back of the boutique, which soon echoed with the sounds of water running, some splashing, lots of scrubbing, and maybe more unstallion-like sounds. The cucumber sandwiches only made a light snack, but the guard remained where he was sitting until Rarity came prancing back out with the present bobbing behind her. Here you go, she called. Here you go, she called in a sing-song voice, while floating the box over to the guard. So sorry to make you wait, sir. Please take the creature to my dear friend Fluttershy over at her home. I'm certain she will find it to be a delightful hearthwarming present, and quite helpful for the rest of her creatures. Run. Hello? Wait. Hello? The guard tapped a few more times in the door frame of the humble house with all the animals around it. There was still no sign of the owner. Fluttershy, I've got a hearthwarming present from Rarity for you. A present? The door cracked open, and a beautiful young Pegasus poked her nose out. Is it a dress? No. The guard carefully put down the box, and began to back away, but not too far. Maybe you should open it first. I'll be right here in case it's dangerous. Instead of cringing, as the guard expected, Fluttershy's eyes lit up, and she gave a happy smile. Oh, Rarity found me a new creature friend. She ripped the lid off, looked inside, then ever so slowly looked up over at the guard, who merely shrugged. I just carry gifts. I don't send them. He snuck up closer and managed to get a good... He snuck up closer and managed to get a look in the box, where the changeling simply sat like she was sulking. Rarity had I was expecting it to be dead. Like you just have a dead peanut butter covered changeling in a box. Imagine just Rarity found it like that. It's like, oh, a gift from Rainbow Dash. Oh, holy shit! It's a dead changeling. Run. Da, 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 da. It's a dead bug in a box. Oh, God. Rarity had dressed the creature in the most poofy, frilly, extravagant outfit, complete with a pink bow, pink hoof polish, and a look of desperate longing for sanity, which the guard could sympathize with. It's nice, said Fluttershy. I think. She could help me with my creature friends. Wouldn't you like that? The changeling sneezed instead of responding right away, then sneezed again. Sorry, pet fur allergy. She managed to get out before sneezing 3 more times in quick succession. Oh my! Fluttershy dropped the lid back on the box, which slowed the number of sneezes coming from inside. I better send you to one of my friends who doesn't have a furry pet then. Welcome to Sugar Cube Corner, where everything is sweet, neat, and good to eat. Ooh, you brought me a hearthwarming present. Is it from Rainbow Dash or Twilight Sparkle or Applejack or... Yes, said the guard, who is now apparently the narrator. Ah, shit, man, not again. In a way, you are Pinkie Pie, correct? I think so. The big pony checked their... He got punched. Rainbow Dash punched him so hard he became the narrator. Oh, shit. I think so. The pink pony checked her cutie mark, then reached in her mane and produced a helicopter pilot license, a birth certificate written on a rock, and a pay stub from an animation studio. Yep, that's me, Pinkie Diane Pie, although Diane is a little silly for a pony name, so can I have my present, please, please, please? Yes, said the guard in a split second where Pinkie was inhaling. Can I go now? Not until you have one of my special super frosted cupcake specials as a thank you for bringing me a present. I cannot believe I said that sentence flawlessly. The guard's stomach gave me a and of course I fucked that part up. The guard's stomach gave out a rumble because aside from a few snacks in passing, he had not yet gotten anything substantial to eat yet today. Besides, there were no other elements of harmony to whom the gift could be redirected, so a delay would probably be safe. Okay, I will. Run. You Yippee! Pinkie Pie somehow managed to put a plate with a frosted cupcake in front of the guard, rip the top off the box, and bounce around the room at the same time. My own changeling! Just what I needed for the party! The changeling barely managed to get her powdered and groomed nose out of the box before Pinkie Pie put the top back on and began pushing it toward the back room. Come on, the party just started, and we need you! The guard waited for a moment with a cupcake in front of his nose. He took a careful bite, chewed slowly, and swallowed, but there was no immediate return of the box and its unwelcome contents. Giving out a contented sigh, he leaned back in the chair and regarded an eclair that had somehow been added to his plate too. It was a nice touch, because Celestia always seemed to sweep up any loose ones in Canterlot. While he ate, the guard listened to the small, happy voices from the other room and relaxed. It was a nice reminder that someday, maybe, he would settle down, marry, and have foals. Well, contribute to having and raising foals. His bachelor life now was untouched by feminine companionship, and hearthwarming was a cold time alone. Still, he was looking forward to the flight back to Canterlot and getting off work, or at least until Pinkie Pie came scurrying back into the room, looking a little frazzled and odd, even for her. Run. Hey, Mr. Guard, I need to send the changeling back to where she came from, to Queen Chrysalis. Can I get you to fly her there right now? Now? The guard measured the look of pure panic in Pinkie's eyes. Sure. Great, I owe you one. Let me go get her. There was a pink blur, and Pinkie zipped back into the party room. With only a few seconds till the box came back into the dining room, propelled by 4 dark legs sticking out of the bottom. In a hurry, hissed a voice from inside the box. Heaving a sigh, the guard scooped up the box and flew out the door, and resigned to a long trip out to the Badlands. Hope he's level 35. It was not all that bad, since he did not have anything scheduled this evening anyway. Besides, this put him into overtime hours, and the flight was better than spending hearthwarming sitting around his cold bachelor apartment, staring at the walls. Oh man, this guard. I feel for him. Behind him, Pinkie Pie poked her head into the dining room, and looked around for the missing guard. Hey, where did you go? I can't find the changeling, and it's time for the piñata. Hello? Don't you two want candy? Your mage stickness. Look what you got. A present, a present. Several changelings tumbled into Chrysalis's throne room, carrying a large box in their magic, which they proceeded to place in front of her and grovel like they had been trained. Who would possibly send me a present? Purred the queen of changelings, as she slowly descended the stairs to her throne. Well, there was a pony guard carrying it, said one of the least cautious changelings, but he got away. Out! Commanded Chrysalis. She kicked one slow-moving changeling into more rapid motion and pointed to the door in the back of the throne room. Get out, you simpering fools! She regarded the fleeing changelings with a royal sneer, then turned her attention to the box once they were gone and kicked it over. A changeling rolled out, with various discarded pieces of clothing scattered around as she flopped to a halt and looked up. Hello, Mother. Chrysalis smiled much the same as a shark scenting blood. Hello, child. Back so soon. The changeling belched quietly. So much love, I thought I was going to explode. Ah, hissed Chrysalis. We'll see about that. She lit her horn and inhaled, drinking in the green stream of love from the changeling with a cackle of joy. After a long, long time, Chrysalis slumped back on her throne and gave out a long belch.
Ah, a wonderful mix. Like hearth-warming dinner with a double extra servings of everything, plus gravy. The queen belched again and rearranged herself against the throne cushions, then fixed the smaller, tired-looking changeling with a baleful gaze. Go tell the rest of the hive to get back to work. Mama's going to just sit here and take a little nap.
Thank you, your majesticness, said the changeling. She stumbled to her hooves and staggered towards the throne room door, giving a quick peek over her shoulder at the sleeping queen. Then her pace picked up, and she fairly darted out into where the rest of the hive was waiting. Okay, guys, it's all clear. Time to party! Whee! Declared the rest of the changelings. Happy hearth-warming, motherfuckers! Yo, that one was pretty funny. And not just because of all the memeing that was going on. Run. Nah, but I really like that one, though. I'm just gonna archive this bad boy. Damn, boy, that's a thick-ass story, boy! Run. Okay, we now have 2 stories left to go, with 20 minutes till East Coast Christmas. Before we get into the next one, I'm going to take another 5-minute break to get some more water. Alright. Changeling comedy slice of life. That's a good thing. Okay. So we got 2 stories left tonight. Hoping this one doesn't give too much of a sad whiplash, but no, it's slice of life, so it'll probably turn out okay. We'll see. Okay. So, Prince Blueblood has everything he could ever want: wealth, power, food, wine. But on Hearthwarming Eve, he realizes he lacks what he truly wants: some pony who genuinely wants him around. Or so he thinks, until a late visitor helps him see that happiness does not have to be so hard to find. In fact, it's right in front of his face. This is In the Bleak Midwinter. It was Hearthwarming Eve, and in the city of Canterlot the frosty wind blew fiercely. The earth and the streets stood hard as iron to any hooves that dared to tread outside. Water like a stone. From the cloudy sky fell distant flurries, snow upon snow upon snow, blanketing every last inch of the city beneath a few generous inches of white, like icing on a gingerbread house. In the midst of this gloomy atmosphere, there was yet warmth to be found. Within their houses, the families of the city stayed indoors, only occasionally glancing outside the frosted window panes. Outside was a darkness like no other, a chillness colder than any other winter before. But inside, there was a light brighter than the blazing noon, a glow warmer than the heat of June. Families broken and estranged were joined together for a night, friends who hadn't spoken to each other in ages, laughing together, as if they hadn't been gone a day. Lovers joined together as they melted into the embrace of the other. It was not so for every pony, however. Across the city, a pair of dim blue eyes stared down the street, wishing... Oh, hang on a second. I am back. I need to take off. There we go. Across the city, a pair of dim blue eyes stared down the street, wishing for once he was outside. Anywhere but here was preferable. Anywhere but here was preferable, Blueblood thought dismally as he turned away. He looked at himself in the mirror above his dresser, unsurprised by seeing in his reflection a bleary-eyed mess. His blond mane was askew, his dark burgundy dressing gown well worn, and there was a stain across his front, which he vaguely remembered was brandy. In other words, he looked frightfully disheveled. It didn't matter, of course, since he was trapped here in his house. The opulence surrounding him was little comfort. A gilded prison of one's own devising was still a prison nonetheless. He could have company, of course, but who would want to keep him company tonight when they had their own families, their own lives to attend to? He asked a few of his friends if they would visit, but they had their own prior obligations and declined. Even his relatives were away. Aunt Luna on a diplomatic mission, Aunt Celestia busy hosting the Hearthwarming pageant, and his sister in the Crystal Empire. He knew it wasn't personal. He knew that, but still didn't change the fact that he was lonely. It had been like this for over a month now, and he had no idea why. Nothing had changed. He still went outside during the day to visit his friends, still sat and talked with them, still went about his normal business. One second. There we go. Misclicked. But he couldn't help but, whenever he got home, feel like the passion that had once driven him had dulled to a barely lit ember. Elegant painted walls were no comfort. Drink and food that he normally enjoyed were bitter to the taste. Even his interactions with his friends didn't have the warmth it once did. It wasn't their fault, of course. It wasn't any pony's fault. It was just the way it was. That didn't help him feel any better, of course. With a snort, he sank into the deep velvet covers of his bed, staring up at the ceiling as a bright fresco of Pegasi in flight. They looked all so very happy, he thought with a little bit of bitterness, flying about here and there. No worries, no petty concerns, just enjoying themselves with pure, unrestrained, innocent delight. It had been a long time since he'd felt like that. Oh, he'd tried to approximate it. Parties, drinking, sex, but it still often left him feeling as if he was just trying to dam up a void that stubbornly refused to be filled. He wasn't sure what he was supposed to do, really. He knew what he wanted, of course. He wanted to not be lonely anymore. No, wait, that wasn't quite accurate. He wanted to feel wanted, as if any pony wanted him around. Not because he threw extravagant parties, not because of his name or status or title, no, but because they wanted to be around him because he enjoyed his company. That was a rare enough thing, though. After all, why would any pony want to be around him, besides for what he could offer them? He wasn't the most pleasant of ponies. He was, to be frank, an oversensitive, shallow pony who pretended he was a lot better than what he was. He acted as if he was above the common masses, free of troubles and cares, wasting money like it was water. And for what? So the noble ponies who expected him to act like that would condescend to pay attention to him, while repulsing any sensible pony of lesser eminence, to keep up his image of being the perfect royalty, in hopes he might not disgrace his family any more than he already had. Had he done something wrong? He'd done everything he thought was necessary to be liked. He had offered his guests and acquaintances anything they might desire. He tried to keep his personal issues behind a mask so it wouldn't bother them. He would gladly give any pony who wanted it his utmost attention, if they so desired. He wasn't very good at talking, so it was much easier to listen. Anyways. He knew what he wanted. How he wanted others to see him, but he had no idea how to do it. If his more personal methods had been ineffective, his larger scale ones had failed miserably. He had tried being a flamboyant hedonist, only to get ridicule from most and fleeting attention from others that rarely lasted beyond a night or two. He had tried to make himself appear respectable by involving himself in religion, in the mysteries and its priesthood. This earned him only accusations of hypocrisy and further judgment. He had tried politics, only to be regarded as a lazy incompetent who was hungry for yet more power, as if he wanted it. Power didn't make him happy. In fact, it just made him more hated. What was a pony like him to do, then? He didn't know. All he could really do at the moment was lie there, pull the covers over his head, and pray for tomorrow to come quickly. That's what usually worked for him anyways. After pondering for a while what to do, he finally decided rest was the best option. Blueblood sighed, reaching for the lamp at his bedside to turn it off. He lay there in the darkness, his eyes closed, as he did his best to drift off to sleep. He was not, however, expecting to hear a knock at the door. "Hello? Are you in there?" The prince jolted awake, staring around the darkened room as if expecting invisible wendigos to come out of the shadows. "What? Who is it?" There was a chuckle from the other side of the door, followed by another softer knock. "Come to the door, you'll find out." Slowly, reluctantly, Blueblood climbed out of bed, turning on the light so that he could see where he was going. He was in no fit state to entertain, so whoever it was would have to just deal with his appearance as it was. He unlatched the door, cracking it open as he began to speak. "Look, I'm sure you have much better things to do tonight than spending it..." His eyes went wide as the door swung open, as he looked into another pair of blue eyes. "Evening, Blue," said the older white stallion, standing in the doorway, looking down at him with a warm smile. "Fancy," he breathed. "What are you doing here? It's Hearthwarming Eve." "Which is exactly why I'm here," Fancy Pants replied jovially. "You don't think I'd just leave you here on tonight of all nights to sit around and brew, did you?" Blueblood swallowed. He had thought that, actually. Not that Fancy would have been wrong for doing so, of course. "Well, no, I just thought you'd be, at home, celebrating with Fleur and the others." "I was. Then they asked me why you weren't there. I had no reasonable explanation, so I came here to get you to bring you home to celebrate with us. Unless you have some objection." "Oh, no!" the princess practically shouted, his ears drooping in embarrassment before he lowered his volume. "I mean, no, I don't." Fancy nodded approvingly, reaching a hoof towards Blueblood. "Good, because even if you did, you'd be coming with me anyway. My carriage is right outside." Blueblood glanced around, fidgeting nervously. Are you sure? I mean, I know I must look quite a fright at the moment." Fancy shot him an incredulous look. "Blue, it's Hearthwarming. What does it matter if you look a little worse for wear?" "But it's a party, and I'm not... it's cold outside." He could feel his worries fading under Fancy's amused gaze. He sighed, finally cracking a smile as he reached his hoof towards Fancy's. "I'll get my coat." The carriage ride to Fancy's villa was uneventful as expected. As he sat, leaning back against the seat, he mulled over exactly how he thought this night was going to go. He would just show up at the party, socialize for a few hours, watch others exchange presents, and be back at home before dawn. Yes, that sounded like a reasonable plan. As the carriage slowed down to a halt in front of the house, he took in a deep breath. He could do this. Just a few hours, and he'd be out of their mains without any trouble. With that in mind, he marched up the door behind Fancy and stepped over the threshold, before suddenly finding himself being tackled by a light purple mare. "Blueblood, you actually came!" "Petunia, you're choking me." "Oh, whoops, sorry." He fell to the floor, not sure whether to be happy about her enthusiastic greeting or bemused about getting tackled to the floor. After a second's thought, he decided on the latter. Blueblood quickly stood up again, brushing himself off and shooting the mare a smile. "Yes, I did. It's good to see you, Petunia." "You too. We all thought you weren't going to come tonight, so we finally sent Fancy to come and get you. And here you are." The prince blinked. "We? Who all is here?" Petunia beamed. "Every pony, really. Fleur, Poppy, North, Tarius, Scoop, Marsh, even Padre. Which is strange because you'd think he'd be with his own family." "And all of them wanted me here?" "Yes, Marsh was the one who suggested it, of course, being your client and all, but the rest of us soon agreed. I mean, it's not a Hearthwarming party without you around." Blueblood's ears drooped, though he tried to keep a straight face. "Right, I was invited because it's a party and not because it's Hearthwarming." Fancy seemed to sense his distress, moving quickly to his side. "Which she means is, it wouldn't feel like Hearthwarming without you here. And I agree with her. This is a time for friends and family, isn't it? And you're our friend. Don't think you're invited here out of obligation or the like. You belong here tonight, with us." The prince's eyes prickled a little with tears, and he turned towards Fancy with a grateful smile. "You have no idea of how much of a relief it is to hear that." Fancy chuckled, gently nudging Blueblood forward. "Oh, I know. Now, I think now would be the best time to make your grand entrance, Blue Blood visibly straightened, confidence with only a small hint of trepidation flickering across his face. Lead the way, you two. Petunia and Fancy glanced at each other before taking their place on the other side of him. When they saw he hadn't moved yet, staring at the far wall, Fancy rolled his eyes good-naturedly. They're in the dining room. Now, come in. Taking a breath, Blue Blood strode forward, reluctantly at first, then with purpose until he passed through the doors of the dining room. Every pony, I have finally arrived. There was a moment of silence before a chorus of voices rang out loud enough to be heard from the street outside. Happy hearth-warming, Blue Blood. And for the rest of the night, he wasn't so lonely anymore. Everyone deserves a little bit of happiness on Christmas. Even the ones who have proven to be a little bit sour in the past. Sometimes we just don't know what folks are going through. We have one more story lined up tonight. So, if you guys have any questions or whatever, feel free to pop them in while I get this last one ready. And it is now midnight on the East Coast. So for all my friends who are in the Eastern time zone, I can now officially wish you all a Merry Christmas. Hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of your night. And if your night is wonderful, then I certainly hope I've contributed to it. Everything's going well, J-Rug. Hectic time of year, busy time of year, but all worth it time of year. Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas, happy hearth-warming. Toast all around. 6 a.m. You must be in, you're in Denmark, yeah. Came the dawn at last. So, this last story is actually the ship story of the night. This is a Luna Sombra ship fic. And it is called... What's my favorite Christmas special? Ooh. I don't know if I have one. I don't know if I can pick like an absolute favorite, to be honest. Yep, get whatever warm drinks you can. Get whatever you need to grab. Settle in, because we got one story left. A Luna Sombra story. This makes you feel better because you're healing from your dental surgery. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're healing, and that this whole thing is helping you heal up a bit. I do hope you feel better. All right. It is now 11 p.m. where I'm at, so I got another hour till Christmas morn. Applejack dangles. Playing Destiny. Alright. So, This is a Luna Sombra ship, Vic. Hearthwarming, naturally, as you do. So let's get right into this last story, huh? This is called Of Love, Snow, and Shadows. King Sombra has been reformed. After falling in love with the former king, Princess Luna is looking forward to sharing their first hearthwarming together. But Sombra has other ideas. The holiday has brought up only bad memories, and after a chance meeting with a filly, those memories become all too real. Can Luna show him the true meaning of hearthwarming, or will Sombra let the past consume him? Well, I have a pretty good feeling where it's going to go myself, but take a quick swig of water, and we shall begin. You've never celebrated hearthwarming before, Luna asked, dumbfounded. Holidays make me sick, remember? The former King Sombra grumbled from behind the newspaper. Besides, I've never been one for all this merrymaking. Such nonsense. But it's hearthwarming. Luna leapt from her seat. She shook her head and trotted over to the roaring fire, decorated with greenery and brightly colored baubles. Hoof-made dolls of Celestia and Luna sat on the mantelpiece. My sister and I have always loved this holiday, ever since we were foals. She turned to her cold friend. Sombra, please, ponies have always celebrated it every year since the founding of Equestria. Ah, said Sombra, lies. Luna's eyes widened, glowing bright and shock in the light of the fire. Hearthwarming is a lie? Sombra, you don't mean it, I'm sure. I do, Sombra choked, folding his newspaper and turning to glare at his mare friend. Hearthwarming is a lie. It's idle madness. That's what it is. I put an end to such things. He paused, then winced. Anyway, how do you know it isn't a lie? It's not like you were there. No, I was not, Luna stated, stomping her hoof against the tiled floor. But Star Swirl was, and surely he wouldn't have told us a lie about the founding of our nation. He's lied to you before, hasn't he? Well, yes, but that's beside the point. This is hearthwarming. It has always been a tradition. Not my tradition. And I'll be just a moment. standing back. Sorry about that. Run. Yeah. Not my tradition. Well, let's see. Well, yes, but that's beside the point. It's hearthwarming. It has always been a tradition, not my tradition. With that, Sombra took one last swig of his tea and trotted towards the door. Luna rushed towards him. Sombra, please. I know this has been hard for you. Hard? I thought I was doing quite well myself. It's not like I tried enslaving anyone since you brought me back. There is more to friendship than not enslaving others. Well, what do you want me to do, Luna? He snapped at her, a flash of green flickering across his eyes and twisted into dark smoke. Luna reeled back, her eyes wide. I'm sorry, he said with a shake of his head and yanked open the door. I'm just going for a walk. He quickly exited, closing the door softly behind him. Luna sat on the warm tiled floor, staring at the door for several moments. A determined frown crossed her face as she humphed. If Sombra won't have a merry hearthwarming, then I will just have to show him one. Sombra trudged through the snow-covered gardens of Canterlot Palace and breathed in deep. He liked the cold. It suited him. Ponies in the Empire spent years making fools of themselves around the Crystal Heart, trying to keep the coldness out. The coldness that only brought him comfort. He sighed. That was the old him. He was supposed to be reforming now, wasn't he? Luna was helping with that. She always had been, ever since they met in a dream after that dragon and his friends banished him. No, he had changed. He was good. Well, at least no longer bad from the point of view of those he had enslaved. He had used to be a false king. He used to be evil. But now he's just a pony, head over hooves in love with the only one who could understand his plight. But what was it about hearthwarming that made every pony so loony? He paused by the castle gate as the sound of a choir echoed through the air. Come rest ye merry, gentle colt, let nothing you dismay. For pony kind was united upon earth's warming day, to save us all from Wendigo's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Lies, he said to himself. That's all it was. A farce, an act, some pointless reason to go mad. Why'd he ought to put them all in the crystal mines? He grumbled and face-hoofed, not caring for the snow and all the grit that splattered over his muzzle. I am not evil. I am not a monster. I shall not enslave anyone else. Merry hearthwarming, sir, a painfully sweet voice called. Sombra looked down at a young filly smiling wildly up at him. Her eyes glinted in the candlelight as the falling snow vanished into her silver-blue mane. A small bucket, decorated in garish colors, sat under her hooves in the trodden snow. There was something familiar about her. Had he seen her before? No, he couldn't have. He would remember such a foal. Merry hearthwarming? Merry hearthwarming? How do you know it's a merry hearthwarming? Well, it's got to be, hasn't it? That's the point. He gritted his teeth. Oh, that's the point? I know that is the point. Then what's wrong? Hearthwarming is supposed to be merry. Well, it's not merry to me, he snapped. The caroller stopped singing as the filly fearfully cowered behind the bucket. Sombra became painfully aware that all eyes were now on him. He took a step back, took a deep breath, and with a good day, turned and marched out of the castle as fast as his dignity would let him. Hope that singing was acceptable. Luna found Sabra sitting alone on a bench in the far corner of Canterlot Cemetery. Here the ancient tombs and gravestones had all but vanished under the ghostly white hills of snow. All apart from one familiar one that Luna could only sigh at. "Why do you come to this place, Sombra?" she asked. "Leave me alone. Go and be merry for all I care. Just leave me alone." Luna rolled her eyes and sat herself on the bench. The stallion didn't move, nor make any sound of objection. The two sat there for several moments, staring at the gravestone across the frozen ground. "What are you thinking?" Luna asked. After several moments, Sombra grunted, "Nothing." "You're brooding, Sombra. You're brooding in a cemetery. I know exactly what, or rather who, is on your mind." Sombra fidgeted for a moment, but refused to speak. "You know," Luna continued, "there was a time where I hated hearths warming." To this, Sombra raised an eyebrow, but made no other notion of interest. "It was the last hearths warming before I turned into Nightmare Moon. As I said, Celestia and I always loved this holiday. We would always have a great time giving each other gifts and having fun, but Celestia just got busier and busier with princess work, and we didn't spend as much time together as we did. That year, I promised I would make things different. So I went all out decorating the place, ready for hearths warming. I put up all the bells and the evergreens and all our favorite treats. I also got her one extra special present, a golden locket that I made for her myself. But when the morning came, she never acknowledged it. She barely even said hello, let alone wish anyone a merry hearths warming." Luna closed her eyes and sighed. "I was just so mad. She didn't even look at the gift I gave her. So I ran away, and that night, everyone's dreams were full of happiness and joy. I just couldn't stand it, so I..." She paused and gulped. Sombra reached his hoof over and tenderly wrapped it around his own. Luna sighed and smiled at the touch. The two sat there for a moment, snuggled up against each other, keeping the cold at bay with their combined warmth. "There's a hearthwarming tradition I've had recently. I want to show you it," she said. "What is it?" Luna gave him a smile. "You'll just have to wait and see." Sombra frowned. He didn't like the sound of this, but that smile, he just couldn't say no to it. No, Luna, please. Anything but this," Sombra said as he stared up at Canterlot Orphanage. It looked much like the rest of Canterlot, with its tall, white brick facade that was now decorated with twinkling lights. A large wreath hung on the hefty wooden door. "Come on, Sombra. It'll be fun, I promise. Just try not to scare anyone." "I can't promise that," he grumbled as Luna pulled him by the fetlock towards the door. "Why this place? Why come here?" A kindly old mare greeted them at the door and welcomed them inside. The warmth, along with the smell of spice and fresh baked goods, slammed into Sombra like a hefty pillow. Holly and ivory hung from the candles that bathed the room in a warm glow. Children giggled merrily as they ran on by. The sight was almost sickening. "Oh, thank you so much for coming," the mayor said. "The children have been asking all day for you." "The pleasure is all mine, Miss Hart," Luna said. "I hope you don't mind that I brought company this time." "Oh, not at all, not at all," she laughed, leading the two into a great dining hall. The table was lavishly decorated with a cornucopia of festive treats and greenery. "The more the merrier. Don't touch the pies, not until the feast starts." Sombra regarded the pastries with suspicion. "They're good," whispered to them. Just wait and see. You should try one. I'm not hungry, he grumbled, although he couldn't deny that the smell was enticing. I bet you're wondering why I brought you here. Something to do with making up for your mistake, Sombra guessed. Yes, Luna stared at her host for a moment. That hearth-warming night, 1,000 years ago, I heard a lot of ponies. Every foal in the land woke up screaming from the nightmares I gave them. Just like you, I must atone for my sins. But you have, Luna, Sombra stressed, staring deeply into her eyes. I don't get it. You are loved and adored. You are just perfect now. Luna cracked a smile. I am not, but thank you all the same. She glanced over to the door where, for the briefest of seconds, a pair of foals were peeking through before quickly vanishing around the corner. I do it because I enjoy it. Because it reminds me of what hearthwarming is really about. About friendship and magic, right? Well, yes, but it's also for helping those less fortunate than yourself. That's why we give gifts. Sombra looked around the room again. The room was old, but it was hard to tell from the fresh coats of paint and lovingly crafted decorations. This place is in much better shape than my orphanage, he said quietly. We never had food like this, too. These foals don't look like they need our help. Sombra, I thought you, of all ponies, would know what it's like growing up in such a place, Luna hissed. Sombra's expression turned darker as he walked away from the table and stared into the gentle embers of the open fire. I do, Luna. I so do. He closed his eyes and shook his head. He could still see them. It was the same every hearthwarming, as he lay in the anguish in his bed. All the colts and fillies would laugh. They all smiled with their bags of candy and gifts. But Sombra had nothing but the pain. He had no one except for her. Luna's hoof wrapped around his shoulder, pulling him out of his malicious thoughts like a safety line. What is it, Sombra? You can tell me. I know I can. This place brings back bad memories. Why did you have to bring me here? I'm sorry, Luna whispered, wrapping him in a comforting hug. But this is special to me. Could you at least stay until I finish meeting all the children? That's all I ask. And not a moment longer. We'll stay as long as you want. Sombra sighed and nodded. Fine, let's get this over with, whatever it is. Luna smiled kindly and once again led him through a set of doors into a library. Colts and fillies sat around under a hearth-warming tree, gaily eyeing the presents that sat piled up under it in bright wrapping paper. One foal looked up and smiled brightly. Princess Luna! Soon all the other foals had run over and gathered around under her hooves, cheering and yelping like a swarm of puppies. He was pushed back by the swarm of foals. He looked to Luna for help, but she only smiled and cheerfully waded through them towards a soft reading chair. She sat gracefully, giving off an aura of power and magic, yet she still had the same warm and kind, gentle-hearted smile. Even he was unable to say no to such a smile. And to think, he once would have turned her to crystal. No crystal could compare to her. She had proved him wrong before, so what if he was wrong about hearthwarming? A scream broke through his thoughts. An accusing hoof was pointed at him by a young filly. The same one from the castle gate. It's him! It's the hearthwarming hater! You again, he gasped. Sombra? Luna looked over with concern, but it was already too late. The foal set on him like a pack of rabid timberwolves. Why do you hate hearthwarming? Why did you shout at our friends? Why are you here? Sombra backed into a wall, cornered by the horde of children that now surrounded him with menacing eyes. He could use his magic and turn them all to crystal, or break their minds and make them his silent slaves, or even just yell at them. But no, he couldn't do that anymore. He had promised Luna he wouldn't, and he would not break a promise. "Please, I am sorry," he said. "I did not mean to shout. I just cannot stand this holiday." "But why?" the silver-maned filly asked. "You're Princess Luna's colt friend, aren't you? And Princess Luna loves hearth-warming." "Yeah, she makes it great for us. She makes it she makes it great for you?" he asked. Sombra barely noticed Luna's amusing grin. "Princess Luna's the best," one filly said. Before her, all her hearth-warmings were so boring." "Yeah, we barely had presents and stuff," another, slightly large colt added. "And no feast." I thought that stuff wasn't supposed to be important," he scoffed. "It's supposed to be about friendship and family, not all these lies. And all it's done is to make you all go mad." Luna giggled. "What's so funny?" "For someone who hates hearth-warming, you sure do know a lot about its true meaning." "Oh, I never said that," Sombra defended. "Children," Luna said, stifling her heavenly chuckles, "let's go and have a story, shall we?" The children cheered and hurried over to the reading seat, where Luna had made herself comfy. "Sombra, you too." Sombra grunted to himself, but sat on a soft pillow at the back of the group. He didn't notice that he had taken the spot next to the silver-maned filly until she gently prodded his side. "What?" "You're King Sombra, right?" "I'm no king. Not anymore," he said. He turned away and glanced towards the window, where fresh snowflakes landed on the frosty glass. "And I don't want to be one, ever again." "My name's Glittering Wish," she said. "I've never met a king before, even a former king." "Well, Glittering Wish, now you have." They sat in silence as Luna read to them. She had chosen the story of some pony called Snowfall Frost, who resented hearth-warming, but through the help of 3 spirits came to enjoy the holiday. Sombra crossed his forelegs and frowned. She was playing him. Was this how he was supposed to be won over to liking this holiday? While Luna was a great storyteller, and he could listen to her soothing yet powerful voice all day, he wasn't buying this one bit. A small sneeze knocked him from the story. Glittering Wish sniffled and wiped her muzzle. "Sorry," she whispered. "All that caroling has given you a cold," Sombra said. "Not that I'm surprised." "Oh, I'm no good at singing," she said. "I just collect bits." "Collecting bits? Whatever for?" "For those who need it, of course." "Like you, I suppose." Glittering Wish just smiled and shook her head. "We have a nice place here, and Princess Luna helps us. But there are other ponies who need help." Sombra considered this for a moment. "I'm sure there are." He frowned, turning deep into thought. So much so he barely could hear the ending of Luna's tale. "Are you okay, Sombra?" she asked. "I suppose so. I'm sorry, I've just had a lot to think about today." "Is it sad stuff?" she asked with a twinkle in her eyes. "You could say that." "Well, that's not right. You're not supposed to be sad today," she said. "It's Hearthwarming Eve. It's time for the party. Come on, you'll like it, I promise." Sombra let the filly lead him back towards the dining room, where all the colts and fillies had gathered around for the Hearthwarming Eve feast. Sombra took a seat next to Luna, and Glittering Wish sat herself down next to him. Soon the table was alight with laughter as the children ate. Sombra didn't take much food and kept mainly to the bread. Luna, meanwhile, enjoyed cakes, fruits, and all kinds of treats as she merrily talked with the foals. "You still look sad," Glittering Wish said. "What if I am? Why do you care?" he asked. I like helping sad people cheer up. Especially on Hearth's warming, the filly added. Of course she did. Of course she did. That mane, that kindness. She looks just like her. No, it must all be an act. Luna put her up to this. Sombra pressed his hooves hard against the table and clenched his eyes shut. No, Luna didn't do this. She's got a point, Sombra, Luna said. Are you okay? He gritted his teeth. I am not sad. He pushed himself back and stood. Excuse me. Sombra fled the room before anyone could object. The snow was falling heavily now. Sombra's charcoal coat had all but turned white under the unrelenting storm. He gritted his teeth as his hooves dug at the freshly fallen flakes that had piled around the old, cracked gravestone. He kept going, not stopping even when he reached the frozen dirt. His hooves threatened to crack as he tore at the ice and mud. Why? Why must you mock me like this? He panted and spat. Why? With a kick of his hoof, he shattered a corner of the gravestone, sending it crashing into the snow with a few crimson specks. His eyes widened for a moment as he looked at what he had done. Have I not suffered enough? He asked. I'm trying to be a better pony. The pony you always thought I was. Is that not good enough? He sat on the frozen ground and held his bleeding hoof against his coat. Now you have to haunt me through a child. Did you put Luna up to this? Are you not happy about us or something? He closed his eyes and waited, as if for an answer he knew would never come. The snow continued to fall, quickly covering up his digging and threatening to entomb him among the graves. The sound of hoofsteps roused him from his thoughts. You want to know why I hate hearthwarming? It's only fair that I tell you. No secrets between us, after all. Luna gently wrapped a hoof around him. You're a mess, Sombra. It can wait. He shook his head. No, I have to tell it here. He glanced up at the gravestone inside. She always wanted me to have a great hearthwarming. Every year she would get me a gift with what few bits she had. It meant so much to me. On hearthwarming eve, she would sit by my bed and read me stories. No matter how bad the pain was, she would always make it better. But then she betrayed me, just like every pony and everything else. When I needed her the most, she ran away to get you and your sister to come and banish me. Sombra hung his head. That year, there was no hearthwarming in the Empire, and while I felt better than I ever did, I missed it. I missed her. Luna gently brushed the snow from his coat. It's cold out here. How about we go back to the castle and get you clean? It's cold out here. How about we go back to the castle and get you cleaned up before having a nice drink of hot chocolate? Sombra stared at the grave for a moment longer and then nodded. All the partying, decorations, dolls, madness. I've never had it before, Luna. All I had was her, and she made it so special for me. But you've managed to do it all over again. Luna nuzzled into his side, warming his coldness. The night has only just begun. There's still more to do, like making your hearthwarming doll. I still think these traditions are foolish. Just like the holiday. He smiled gently. But the true meaning That I do enjoy. Thank you for reminding me of that. Sombra stood and cleared the snow away from the grave one more time. Merry hearth's warming, radiant hope. Thank you. I'm sorry I can't stay longer, but I've got to get going. I made a mess of myself, and there is a filly I have to apologize to. Again. Sombra smiled as he and Luna made the finishing touches to his hearth-warming doll by bandaging its right hoof to match his own. Sombra chuckled and nuzzled into her side, her soft wing wrapped over him, sheltering him from the cold. The snow had slowed to only a few flakes that passed gently over the city that glittered like a field of diamonds below. Their mugs of hot chocolate steamed as they sat on the balcony under the star-filled sky. Thank you, Luna, Sombra said, tightly holding her hoof in his. He met her eyes. They were more beautiful than any sapphire or lapis lazuli. Once again, you've helped me. Luna smiled and tenderly pressed her warm lips against his. Happy hearth-warming, Sombra. I love you, Luna. I do believe that might have been a comic reference. I don't know for certain because I did not read the comics. But the name of Radiant Hope does sound pretty familiar, so I get the feeling that that might have been a thing. So that was a very heartwarming story. Everybody deserves their chance at happiness on the holidays. Even people trying to redeem themselves, people trying to do better. Paying it forward is sometimes all you can do. So, it is currently 11:30 where I'm at. Christmas rolls around in about 25 minutes or so. And the lead up to it, I think I spent it very well. Radiant Hope is love interest. Yep. Thought so. I thought so. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the stories I selected tonight. I feel like they all contributed in some way to their own meaning for the holiday. I hope you find meaning in the holiday. If you already have meaning in your holiday, I hope you find enrichment in it. This has been quite a year for me. And it's, like I said at the start of this stream, it's good to be able to reflect on what is important, what the holiday season means to you. Remember that if any one of your blood is toxic, do not feel obligated to spend time with them over the holiday. That's okay. If you need a little bit of alone time on the holiday, just to have a little breathing room, that's okay. If you find more sustenance trying to spend time with friends over the holiday, whoever makes you the happiest, that's okay. Find your spirit. Find your meaning. Find your resolve. Hope you've all had a lovely 2019. And I hope you all have a Merry Christmas wherever you are. Here's to a brilliant 2020 and much greater things to come. If you would like to listen to more live narrations, I will be doing so on my Twitch channel this coming Monday night, probably around 8 or 8:30 p.m. Central Time. And I'm going to get back to streaming more regularly, like I said. And hopefully I'll find my drive to start making readings and the like again. So, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, wherever you are. Have a lovely, beautiful night. And I will see you all next time. Know that you are loved, wherever you are. And have a great day tomorrow. Good night.